Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at one of the most incredible moments in card collecting history, the football tradition of Santa Claus cards in the 1990s. And this is a really interesting chapter in the history of cards, sports cards of all time. Later on in this millennium, you would see a few Santa Claus cards pop up here and there. In fact, in NASCAR, they actually did a whole run for a few years, Press Pass did, of making Santa Claus cards. But prior to the new millennium, Santa Claus cards, they were basically only football cards. There is a hockey card, I will mention that, but in football, this was a very unique tradition. And if you're wondering what in the world do Santa Claus cards have to do with football, well, the quick answer is it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't, which is part of what makes this such a fascinating little chapter. So these are holiday cards, but they're football cards. They are actually football cards, and they were very much a part of NFL cards during this era. So obviously, the big question that you have to ask is, all right, well, how in the world did this start? And it started the only way an idea this ridiculous could start, Mr. Lud Denny. Lud Denny created a company called Pro Set, and this was created as a football brand because at the time, Topps was just lazily making football cards. They were just out there. People just kind of bought them. That was kind of the thing. And the NFL really wanted a company to jump out there and take over the football market and turn it into something that can compete with baseball. So that was the key. They wanted this company to be able to all of a sudden become known to the entire market. And the estimation is that football only accounted for about 5% of card sales in 1988. So in 1989, they had a lot of catching up to do to catch up with baseball. And they did very much that. In 1989, Pro Set hit the industry by storm and really did kind of reinvigorate the idea of a football card, which was great. But Lud Denny did understand by the end that you've got to be on your toes. You've got to be constantly working to make things better. And so for the end of the football card collecting year, he wanted to do something to kind of thank hobby shops, but also to kind of get in their mind that this was like a friend. This was something that they really wanted to be thinking of, and so he sent out a promo card. And this promo card used the same 1989 football card design. It uses the green border. It's Christmas, so they used the green border from the set. But this is a Santa Claus card. He's listed as head coach, and inside with a really cool image of Santa Claus. It's kind of a traditional painting, and it's very much football card themed. Well, it's entirely football card themed. And so it was really great. Santa had his own card. And even better, on the card back, it had the bio information about him, height, weight, all that stuff. Apparently he's about 270 pounds or so. And the whole write-up it was written by one of the football card writers, but it was done talking about Santa. So it was this great little spoof where you're seeing Santa's his whole world kind of described in a way that's very similar to football. A lot of fun. And the picture of Santa Claus is really kind of cool because here he is in his workshop. He's got cards that he's going through, and he's got a Christmas tree. It's a wonderful little theme that they do. And then if you look in the background, you'll notice that in the back there in the window, there are two elves looking in. And one of those elves looks eerily like Lud Denny. It is absolutely amazing, but that he just happens to look like Lud Denny. Absolutely incredible. And so this card was sent out to all of these hobby shops, and the hobby shops did what they would normally do, which was to put it on display in their display cases. Now, some put a price tag on it, others didn't. And within a very short period of time, this became a seriously sought after card. And the following year, in 1990, Pro Set released in packs a hologram of the Super Bowl trophy, the Lombardi Award. And this card, along with the Santa Claus card, these became serious chase cards. In fact, they were the first chase cards. They basically invented the idea of a true chase card. And so this promo card of Santa Claus, it was a really magnificent thing that they did because every card shop you went into, there was the Santa Claus card and there was the Lombardi trophy. And for high-end collectors, they would look at it and they'd ask for, try to buy them. Well, these cards were selling for over $100 a piece. That's the level of the cost of a Michael Jordan rookie card. That's the level these were at the time. These were just, the entire industry was just amazed by these. But it also did something else. Not only did it get high-end collectors buying more expensive cards, you look at it, go, I can't afford it, I want to buy something else. But it also got eyes in the store to look at these. I can't tell you how many kids fogged up the glass staring at these cards and just thinking, one day I'm going to own these. I was one of those kids. I'm still looking forward to the day when I own either one of them. I'm not quite there yet, but I will get there at some point. So this card, it was a truly iconic card, and it really, the whole industry was just in awe of the card. So in 1990, ProSet did the only thing that they could do. They decided to make another one, but this time they did it as an SP card. So it was an insert in packs, but it was a special card. It was not a part of the set. It wasn't quite one per box, but it was common enough that you could actually get your hands on it. Kids could get our hands on it. And that was the thing. I remember getting my card, and I loved my card. I still have my card. I still love it. It's even got a tear in it, and I don't care because it was that special. And the card design was a radical improvement over the previous year, both for the main cards and for the Santa card. In this year, they did a half bleed card, so they have a little border at the top. They have two borders at the bottom. These are team colors, so this is green and red. But this time they used red as the dominant color. And then inside is a very Sunblum Coca-Cola ad type art. This is the kind of art that you're so used to seeing in all of those classic Coca-Cola ads with Santa. That's the theme they went with, and it's beautiful. And so this card it's as Coke as it gets. There's Santa standing near the tree. In this case, he is actually interacting with the tree, etc. And if you look at up on the mantle, you'll notice that, hey, there's Elf of the Month, which, incredible. He looks just like Lud Denny again. It's that same elf. What are the odds? It is uncanny to see him there again. It was this wonderful little running joke that they were doing. So not only did they do two Santa Claus cards in a row, but also you've got Lud Denny featuring on both of the cards. It was a lot of fun that they did with this. And on the card back, they did a 'Twas the Night Before Christmas poem, but it was a take on it. So again, they're playing around with it. They're really having fun with it. And it was a really great thing they did. But you'll also notice that the card number is 1990. So in the previous year, their promo card was card numbered 1989. So here, it's 1990. So the whole card was just a brilliantly thought out card. It was a lot of fun. It was a truly iconic card and gorgeous. I mean, this card just truly was gorgeous. So for the whole industry, this was becoming kind of a quintessential part of ProSet. And as you can imagine, in 1991, they did the same thing. They added another SP card. Now, in this case, the ProSet cards had lost their border entirely. So here they did basically just a postcard design. This is a classic postcard approach. Here you have Santa with a sled, and there's only one reindeer who happens to be Rudolph, and it's in front of the ProSet shop. So I guess they have a branch up at the North Pole. Again, it's a lot of fun they did with it, and guess who's looking through the window? That Lud Denny elf again. And on the card back, in this case, they do not have a card number, so they just left that blank. But they did do, instead of a poem or something like that, they actually retold the story of a classic story from, a true story, from back at the beginning of the 20th century, I think it was, where a little girl had written into a newspaper editor asking if Santa was real. And his response was a really great response, talking about the spirit of the holiday, etc. And it's most famous because of his closing line, which is, "Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus." And so this basically kind of brings that back up. It's one of those stories that if you're not familiar with it, it can be lost very quickly, but it's always wonderful to discover it. So I love the fact that they brought that back into the public consciousness. They took advantage of having the cards and being able to do that. But they also, in 1991, they made a version of their set in Spanish, the Spanish language. So it's not the full set, it's a truncated set, but in this they also had some inserts, and one of the inserts was the Santa Claus card. Except because this was Spanish, it wasn't the Santa Claus card, it's known as the Felicidades card. And it's cool. It's the exact same story of, yes, Virginia, there's a Santa Claus, except it is obviously in Spanish. And what I really like in it is that at one point they referred to him as Papa Noel, which is a name I've never heard, but it's a wonderful name to have for Santa. So this was a really cool card in that regard. This is actually numbered, but it is a part of a whole nother set. But it's a less common card to run into because the Spanish set is something that you're less likely to run into. Now, in 1992, they went through an ownership change. ProSet had strung itself out too much, so it had to kind of reinvent itself. So by the time that the Santa Claus card came out, this wasn't the Lud Denny tradition. And so in the previous 3 years, you'd seen basically different takes on traditional Santa Claus art. Well, in 1992, they just forgot that. This is a full bleed card, but this is a take where Santa Claus it's an homage to where Pro Set called home, which is Dallas, Texas. So here Santa is in a suede jacket, kind of thing you'd see all over the South. He's got cowboy boots, he's got a cowboy hat, he's standing in front of a split rail fence, and interestingly, he's got one boot up on a New York Giants helmet. Now, I don't know if the implication is that he's a Giants fan or if he's a Cowboys fan who is stomping all over the Giants. Not sure what the theme was that they were going with, but it's a modern art. It's a pop art approach. So it doesn't have the same spirit to it. You can feel that, yes, this is a new company, or they're trying to be a new company. And on the card back, this is a very slick card back. It's one that doesn't have any of the spirit or the feeling of the creativity that we had gotten used to in the previous 3 years. So you're definitely feeling it kind of scale back. And then in 1993, the last year Pro Set existed, here they did a horizontal card front. Here it's a little bit more pop art. The card back looks basically the same. And so Pro Set you could feel the transition away to not having the same spirit and liveliness and creativity that they'd had in the past, which is too bad. And we would never have a 1994 for the reason that Pro Set basically imploded. And it's a shame. But before they went, they did give us one other little gift of Santa Claus cards where hockey was their number 2 sport. They were mainly football, but they also did hockey. And in hockey, they wanted to do something that was really high end. And so they looked to, Topps had brought back the Bowman name, and then Donruss had been using the Leaf name. Those were both old names from the past, and they were used for higher end cards. So Pro Set went back and they took the old name that hadn't been used from the past in hockey, which was Parkhurst, and they used that to make a higher end card. And the card that's a whole nother discussion I don't want to get into, but because they were launching it here in 1991-92, they decided, let's make a Santa Claus card for this. And they only did it for the 1 year. And the Santa Claus card that they made, well, in this case, it's like a Norman Rockwell. It is wonderful. It's a really, really cool card. Beautiful card. It's got some really inspired art, and incredibly, and as you never would have imagined, right in the back, there's that Lud Denny elf again. But that was the only card that was made outside of football. Otherwise, football was the domain of the Santa Claus cards, and it wasn't just Pro Set either. In 1991, Pro Line Clothing Company decided to launch a card set which showed off all their clothes. So these were portrait shots of various players, and it was downtime shots. So it was showing players looking basically like anybody else. It was a really cool idea. And on the card back, all of these cards had personal quotes from the players, or more specifically, every player was given the opportunity to talk a little bit to kids. So when you read it, it's basically a personal statement to you from the player, talking about the struggles of being an athlete or overcoming struggles or stuff like that. So it was really neat. Well, Pro Line wanted to launch itself into the public conscious. So one of their advertising campaigns, because they did a lot, one of them was to do a special promo where in magazines they would talk about, if you send in 10 wrappers, you can get a Santa Claus card. And so it was a really cool thing where it was a wrapper redemption. If you bought 10 packs, you could send it and get a special card that wasn't even in packs. And there was an interactive quality to it that was also a part of it, which made it just absolutely fascinating. And so for kids, I mean, this was really, really cool to be able to do. And so a lot of these cards do exist. Now, it follows the same format as the Pro Line cards. In this case, they have more a traditional pop art shot of Santa, but that's the style of the art. And here Santa's in a uniform, and he's striking a Heisman pose, and so it's like he's rushing the toys to the end zone or whatever. Doesn't matter. It's really cool, and it's a very expressive image, and it's something that is just a lot of fun, primarily for kids. And then on the card back, it lists his position as toy maker, which is kind of interesting. But in this case, it is a personal statement from Santa to you. So just like the players, they got Santa to write on this card and give you a special little insight into kind of the way things are for him. And you might notice that down at the bottom, the card number is 1991. So they actually picked up what Pro Set had done the first 2 years. In 91, Pro Set did not use the year. In this case, they were using 1991 for the card number. But this is pro line, and that means that they do autographs. And this card, ironically, was also done with an autograph. So the autograph is on the card front, and you might notice that on the card that I have, it is sequentially numbered out of 200. A lot of the cards, 200 or so, come this way, but not all of them. There are some actual authentic autographs that are also done without the numbering. So they come in both ways, but the way that you can tell that it's authentic, obviously, is the ever-present embossed seal of authenticity. Bottom right corner, that's where you find it. And if it's on there, then you know that that autograph was not written on there by somebody who is not actually Santa Claus. So very important to make sure that you know that it is original. And that was successful enough that in 1992 they decided to do the same thing. So they again made a Santa Claus card. In this case, Santa's actually wearing something that Proline makes. And in that case, it was the Super Bowl jacket. And so the art, it looks a little bit different. It's a little bit more of an attempt at a traditional image of Santa, but it's kind of fun to see how they were doing something that was really much more of a pro line card. I mean, this really is the way that the pro line cards were. And then on the card back, it's got another little description from Santa, and here it's numbered 1992. But Proline also did an insert set called Spirit, and this was because of their women's clothing line. So they actually had wives of players and coaches and an announcer here and there who were featured on cards. So this was a separate set from the main set. These were inserts and packs. And so because they had all of these Spirit cards, they went ahead and they made one for Mrs. Claus as well. So there are actually two different Santa Claus cards. There's Mr. Claus and there's Mrs. Claus. And so Anna has her own card, which is really cool. Now, again, these cards do come autographed. So you have the autograph of Santa and you have the autograph of Anna Claus. But they also did a card where both of them autographed them at the same time. So you have two autographs on the same card. So they actually have three different autographs, which is really, really kind of cool. Now, both cards are numbered 1992, so don't get confused by that. You got to make sure you know which one is which. But that was a great thing the Proline did. And in case you're wondering, no, they did not make national releases of these cards. These were separate from that. So you're not going to find the national emblem on it. But as far as the autographs go, yes, they did do all of these. But Proline did not make a 1993 card. And the reason they didn't do that was because 1993 was the year when NFL Properties started to get into this same tradition. Now, NFL Properties is the licensing wing of the NFL where you got to get a deal with them in order to show all the logos. And so NFL Properties is where the NFL itself is making money off of merchandising. And so these are the guys who really want they want you to go out and buy all these cards. And at this point, card companies like Game Day and Pacific and Wildcard, they weren't as popular as other card brands. And so the NFL really wanted to make sure that everybody knew all of the cards that were out there so they would go out and buy more cards. So they put together a special send-away card set of promo cards for all of the card companies in the sport. So that means that even though a brand like, say, Pinnacle had Score, Pinnacle, and Select, had three different cards that they sold, they would only make one card for their brand, so they chose Pinnacle. It was that kind of a thing. So there were, at the time, 12 different brands. So this set had 12 different cards in it, plus a header, and it's a checklist as well. So it was really cool to see the different approaches that every single company would make for these Santa Claus cards. And these were sendaways that were done basically the same way as Proline. You send in a bunch of wrappers and you can get this in return. I'm not going to go into all the details of this because I'm going to keep the video kind of short. I'll talk about these in another video. But I do want to note that tcdb.com doesn't have a lot of great information other than checklists, but in the case of these cards, actually, they do show the images of all the cards. So that was a really good thing that they put onto the tcdb.com website. So if you need to see a checklist, you can check that out. Or when I do my video, I'll be showing you all the cards that were done for each one of these sets as well. But this was something they did in 1993, 94, 95, 96, and 97. And you can see the creative energy early on, and then they kind of gave up the ghost by 1997, so there wasn't anywhere else that they could go with it. But it was fun to see that. It was also a little disappointing to see the industry shrink down because they had less cards later on, or less companies to make cards later on. but it was a really cool thing that they did that was basically just continuing this tradition, and it made it even a little bit bigger than just Pro Set and Pro Line. But I say Pro Set and Pro Line, but there's actually another company that did do Santa Claus cards, and that was Upper Deck. Now, Upper Deck didn't do football cards. They used this tradition for Upper Deck. And so in 1993, they made a set of 10 cards. This was a single group of 10 cards you bought at one time, and this was not sports related. Reggie Jackson was the only guy who was actually featured on the card. Otherwise, it was all just special art that was looking at all the 4 different sports that Upper Deck made cards in. And they were all total art. It's kind of fun to see kind of the creativity that they put into it. So they did do that little set of 10 cards in 1993. But again, it's Upper Deck proper, sports in general. And in 1998, they closed out the 90s tradition of Santa Claus cards by making a special gift to dealers. So in the same spirit as the 1989 card, in 1998, they made a double-sized card, and this is a memorabilia card, so it's a jersey swatch from his actual uniform. Fortunately, they cleaned off all the soot, so it's very clean, kind of got a velvety quality to it. And it is a Santa Claus card through and through. This is not sports related. It is Upper Deck saying thank you to everybody, but it is a part of this tradition, and it exists because of the football cards. So that was essentially it. In the new millennium, you'd see a card here and a card there. A few things would pop up. But the only other thing I wanted to talk about was in 2007, Topps decided to make a Santa card set. This is just Santa Claus cards, straight across the table. That's what they are. And in this case, it's not supposed to be sports related, but they did use baseball card designs. So you see from the 1952 design on. And these cards, some of them are really cool and some of them aren't very good. So the 1952 design for the Santa Claus cards, the image is pretty lousy. That's the way the 52 cards kind of looked. They weren't very good. So it wasn't a lot of fun, but there was that one. And then you go on and like in 1960, great card. Well, guess what? They have a great Santa Claus card from this set. And then on, you get these different cards, and you may get a really old style card here, or in the case of this card, for some reason Santa has a black eye, I guess. I'm not entirely sure. It's really kind of weird, but he's got this. And then here, who's that kid? I really wonder who the kid is. I hope that the kid works for Topps, because if it's just some random kid, I mean, you really got to wonder who the kid is. But 1987, I got to note that in that case, that's a great card design, and the card itself looks great. This is probably the best card in this entire set, which fits for that card border. So it was fun to see the different designs they came up with, but this was sold as a complete set. And with every complete set, they also included a jersey swatch, so that comes in each one, and then they also have an autograph in every one. And the autograph card is designed to be an autograph card, so it's authentic. But that was the last thing that was done of real note. Again, I could talk about, say, Strata or Contenders. I could talk about a few of the other little things that popped up. But the 90s tradition itself was a really unique time where there was a lot of exploration of Santa Claus cards. And like I said, the NFL properties ones, I'd love to go into it, but the video is long enough as it is, so I'll look at that separately. But otherwise, it's a wonderful tradition. It was a fun thing to experience, and I have to say that it is easily one of my favorite parts of being a football card collector. So I want to wish you guys all a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from all of us here at the Sports Card Professor, and by all of us I mean, well, frankly, me. And I hope that you enjoyed the video, learned some stuff, and thank you very much for watching.